Trojans, welcome to the Voice of College Football USC channel. I am your host, Rick Anaya. Happy to be here for another edition of Trojans Talk on Tap, where I keep your glass full of the latest buzz on USC football, sometimes an opinion on the happenings in college football, and always a craft beer recommend at the end of the video to upgrade your upcoming tailgate or party. And Trojans, this week, I'll be talking about what's been happening in college football over the past weekend as USC had a bye week. Saw some surprising games, as I'm sure you did. Was able to watch Alabama struggle at South Florida and not have a quarterback. And OC Tommy Rees has his hands full as he was switching between Tyler Buckner, the transfer from Notre Dame, and Ty Simpson, a former highly regarded recruit, struggling to win 17-3 in South Florida against pretty much a G5 team. Also saw Georgia struggle at home between the hedges in their SEC opener to USC Light and backup quarterback to Caleb Williams, Spencer Rattler, trying to beat them with a freshman kicker who made a field goal in the first half and missed one, down 14-3 to South Carolina, and Georgia eventually winning 24-14. Kind of disappointing for the number one team in the country playing at home. And another surprising game was Washington going into Michigan State. Michigan State had a lot of turmoil this past week with the issues with Mel Tucker. Now we're hearing that he's eventually been noticed that he's going to be terminated. But Washington going in there, I think they were favored by 16 and really just putting the hurt on Michigan State, 41-7, over 700 yards of total offense. That was a statement. So tell me down in the comments, what were some of the surprising games that you saw? What was the most surprising? And let me know. So this episode is going to be called Orderville in the Pac-12 and college football. Perhaps you recognize those Dr. Pepper commercials. You know, Dr. Pepper Fansville, a town where every day is Saturday and everyone is a fan, literally. The brand says the season will be the most dramatic of the townsfolk's lives as tensions mount over old rivalries and new neighbors. Well, I'm calling this Orderville in the Pac-12, where the TV networks and the lack of Pac-12 leadership says this season will be the last and will be the most dramatic of the Pac-12 fans' lives as tensions mount over old Pac-12 rivalries and new neighbors, soon to be in the Big Ten, ACC, and Big 12. As you know, the Pac-12 has been much maligned for a number of years, and its dysfunction came to roost this past August 4th, with several teams bolting the conference for new conferences. And most recently, a couple weeks ago, the ACC was notified that Stanford and Cal had been accepted, along with SMU, and which leaves Washington State and Oregon State as the Pac-2. But this is the college football season. That was off the field. On the field, the Pac-12 is doing very well. It's the number one, arguably the number one conference in the country this year. Going through week 3, finishing competition in week 3, out of conference records, the Pac-12 is 29-5. That's an 85.3% winning percentage. The SEC is second, 29-8, a little over 78%. The ACC third, 25-8, 75.8%. Followed by the Big Ten at 25-9, a little over 73%. And pulling up the rear, the misfit toys, as many will call them, the Big 12, 28-12, a 70% winning percentage. If you take a look at some key numbers in the Pac-12, you'll find that the top 8 teams are very, very competitive in the Pac-12. That's 8 out of 12. The top 2/3 of the conference, 23-0 in out-of-conference play. That's a very deep conference. No other conference in the country can say that. And if you take a look at how that translated with the latest AP polls, you have, after week 3, USC's ranked 5th, Washington 8th, Oregon 10th, followed by number 11, Utah, 14, Oregon State, Colorado 3-0, number 19, Washington State, the Cougs, with a big win earlier in the year, beating Wisconsin. They're at 21. And number 22, UCLA. UCLA is 3-0, most recently beating North Carolina Central. They started off the year by beating Coastal Carolina. Yes, their schedule, they haven't played anybody, but they were supposed to play Michigan, and Michigan backed out. So that's eight top 25 teams in the latest AP poll. Speaking of the AP poll, I cannot believe they have Florida 2-1, ranked number 25. But that tells you about the poll. Because Florida, we all saw that the first game of the year, and they laid an egg. They lost 24-11 to the third string and fourth string Utah quarterbacks. Cam Rising wasn't available, and their second string quarterback was injured in fall camp. So and we all know SEC teams are different when they play on the road. Case in point, look at what happened to Tennessee. Ranked number 11, they go in the swamp, or for whatever reason, they can't win in the swamp and haven't done so since 2003. How good is Tennessee? We don't know. But apparently good enough that gets them to Florida being number 25. It's the typical SEC shell game. They don't deserve to be number 25. I'm really disappointed that a team like Fresno State, again, a Mountain West team coached by Jeff Tedford, they have 2 Power 5 wins on the road, naming another team in the country that can say that on their resume, plus another win. They're 3-0. So they beat Purdue at Purdue, and this last week go into Tempe and shut out ASU 29-0. I know ASU is a dumpster fire, but it's still a Pac-5. It's a Power 5 win on the road. Fresno State's ranked 30th. They should be number 25. But that's how things roll sometimes. But why is this important to keep note of what's happening? It's because the Pac-12 and USC specifically, USC and any other teams that are in the Pac-12 that are successful have a chance of making the college football playoff. And dare I say it, USC and another Pac-12 team, I would say 2 Pac-12 teams, have the opportunity to make the college football playoff. That there's that much depth in the Pac-12, and the playbook's been written before. We've seen the SEC get 2 teams in before. We've seen that a number of times, and the SEC doesn't have a leg to stand on this year. And if you take a look at it, specifically, the SEC is 5-7 against Power 5 teams. Basically, 40% of their wins in out of conference have come against FCS schools. They're 12-0 against FCS schools. So when you take a look at the Pac-12, you're going to have some ranked games this week. You're going to have Colorado going up to Oregon. You're going to have Oregon State playing up in the Palouse against Washington State. And then you're going to have a ranked UCLA going out to Utah. Yes, these teams are going to beat up on each other, but they're ranked teams. And speaking of ranked teams, USC has its clear path to the Pac-12 championship and the college playoff berth laid out for it. Taking a look at the teams that are currently in the AP top 10, the Trojans' schedule, as we know, is backloaded. And they've got the perfect opportunity to make it to the college football playoff and win a Pac-12 championship if they take care of business. I think they can lose one game. In fact, at the beginning of the year, I had mentioned that the game I think they're going to lose is at Oregon. But if you take a look at it, USC, based on the current rankings, in their last 10 games, and I'm including USC making it to the college football playoff, the Pac-12 championship, that would be the 10th game. But they will be playing 7 out of the 10 teams will be ranked. Very good possibility. And the surprise team is going to happen not this weekend, but the next weekend on the 30th at Colorado, who's currently number 19. So there's a good chance that at the end of the year, they'll have 7 ranked teams that they'll be playing against. If you take a look at the rest of the top 10, they don't have as many opportunities. And this is going to bode well for USC, which speaks to their strength of schedule. For instance, number 1, Georgia. Georgia doesn't really play anybody. They have, out of the last 10 games, they have 3 ranked teams, and that's including the SEC championship game. They have Ole Miss. They probably have Tennessee games in November and the SEC championship game. You look at Michigan, same thing. They're going to be playing Penn State, Ohio State, and then a Big Ten championship opponent. Same can be said for Penn State. They have the opportunity of playing 3 out of 10 teams that'll be ranked. Ohio State has the opportunity for 4 because this week they're playing Notre Dame. That's going to be a crucial game. If you're a Trojan, you want Notre Dame to win that game. You want Ohio State to take a loss because their strength of schedule is not very strong, and we want Notre Dame undefeated when the Trojans go into South Bend on October 14th. Also taking a look at Florida State. Florida State has knocked off LSU, but they have 3 other games where they'll be playing ranked teams, and they'll be most likely Duke, Miami, and this weekend, Clemson. Now, they have an opportunity for the ACC championship game as well, so they could be playing 4 more games in the last 10, plus already winning against LSU. So they could have 5 quality wins if they run the table. Texas beat Alabama. They have that win. That game is not looking as strong as it used to because Alabama is not Alabama. Left on Texas's schedule, they have OU coming up. And honestly, that is probably it. And Kansas State. Kansas State dropped out top 25, but they'll be back in it. And then they have the Big 12 championship game to boost their strength of schedule, but only 3 of the last 10 games. So you can see that USC has a clear path. Their schedule is backloaded, and there's an opportunity that if USC loses 1 game, that they have an opportunity of making it. Also, if you take a look at Washington, they're ranked 8th. They have 6 out of their last 10 games are against ranked teams. Number 9, Notre Dame, they have 4 of the last 10 remaining games against ranked teams. Challenge with Notre Dame is they don't have a conference championship game, so they play 12 games, and that'll be it. And that could hurt them in a 14 playoff. And then finally, Oregon, similar to USC, they have the opportunity to play 7 ranked teams out of their last 10 games. So it's very important. We're going to see what's going to be happening in the next several weeks. But the Pac-12, because of the strength of schedule, because how well the top 8 teams have done, 23-0 and out of conference, that helps sets up strength of schedule and gives opportunity for the Pac-12 to possibly get more than 1 team in the college football playoff. And the SEC just hasn't been the SEC. Going into this year, it was Georgia, Alabama, and everybody else. Okay, now this last weekend, the national media is starting to recognize that Georgia and Alabama aren't as strong as maybe everybody was thinking about. Now it's early, and those corrections can be made. I give more of an opportunity to Georgia figuring out who they are with Carson Beck versus Alabama and their quarterback issue. They also have offensive line issues that need to be corrected, giving up way too many sacks, 5 to South Florida, and too many penalties. One surprise is Colorado. And Colorado, in their first 3 games, have over 25 million viewers watching their 3 games. This past weekend, in a 7:30 Pacific time slot on ESPN playing Colorado State, they had over 9 million viewers. And just to give you an idea how big that number is, that average Pac-12 After Dark time slot on ESPN would get between 1 and 1.2 million viewers. So that Colorado effect is huge. And USC has the opportunity to make a national statement against Colorado in 2 weeks. It was announced today that Fox is broadcasting that game at 9 o'clock Pacific, 10 o'clock Mountain Time, and they're also having the big noon kickoff. So USC basically has a 6 to 7 hour commercial for the whole country. And this is pleasing news, Trojan, for the number of years where we've been stuck on the Pac-12 network, haven't got the visibility, and the Pac-12 has been a shell of itself. Here's the opportunity. I don't want to hear any complaining. Let me know if you like the time slot or not. I love it because it's going to be Caleb Williams versus Shedeur Sanders. It's going to be the first time Caleb Williams is going to play a full game, and all eyes will be on USC and Colorado. This will be the 5th game that they're going to be on national TV this year, and this is the way to kickstart USC season and to make a statement. It's all there for the Trojans. Doesn't matter what time it starts. You go out there and you play anybody, anywhere, anytime. That is the mantra for USC football. And I can't wait. Now, this week, yes, we have to take care of business against Arizona State. I understand that, one game at a time. But Arizona State's a shell of itself, and it's karma. Michael Crow, he was one of the contributors to the downfall of the Pac-12. So USC is going to go in there and just put a beating on Arizona State. Look for Caleb Williams probably play 2 quarters. And it wouldn't surprise me if they put a 50-burger up on the dying Sparkies. They're getting ready for the Big 12, and let's send ASU off. The last time that we play that school, most likely for a long, long time. Let's send them to the Big 12, licking their wounds. So Trojans, that's what I have for you this afternoon. If you like the content you're seeing, please hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell notification so you know when I go drop a new video or go live. And then also hit the like and share the video. Share it with your friends. Let them know that you can find Trojans Talk on tap here on the Voice of College Football USC channel. Appreciate you. And now for the craft beer recommend. Today's craft beer recommend is a beer from Modern Times Beer out of San Diego called Orderville. It's a hazy mosaic IPA, 7.2% ABV, and this beer has 4 different hops. It's got kind of a fruit-forward hop character with Mosaic and Sultana hops. Also has Simcoe and Equinox hops, 4 hops. Let's get into this bad boy. So with the hazy IPA, it's going to be more juicy. It's called a New England style. Look at it, pours kind of a golden, kind of orange color, citrusy. And you do get a citrus nose on it. And that's what you're going to get with a hazy IPA. You can kind of take a look at it. It's unfiltered. And it's not going to be as bitter as a West Coast IPA. So definitely get the citrus notes on it. And let's try it. Yeah, you get a citrus flavor, bitterness, fruit forward up front, and then you got a full kind of resinous, layered, hoppy character flavor on the back end. A great beer by Modern Times down in San Diego. I know I've reviewed a lot of beers, and they tend to come from San Diego. They make excellent beers out there, so highly recommend this for your tailgate. This would go great with any type of grilled food or just, chips, salsa, kind of appetizers out at your next tailgate. So let's fight on, Trojans. We got that 7:30 kickoff against ASU. Let's go 1-0 this week to go 4-0 on the season. Fight on.